Okay. So it's 7:04 or 6:04, so we'll call the meeting to order. And Bill and Rusty and Muffin, why don't you come up and grab a seat?
I'm just a bystander.
Okay, well, okay.
He knows all this, he can explain it to you.
Sit down right there.
Is it rare? Okay.
Yeah, sit down, please. And for the tape, why don't you just introduce yourself? or-
Yeah, sure. So I'm Bill Kimball, Superintendent of Schools for Maple Run.
I'm Mary Ann Mooney, school board.
School board member from Fairfield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thanks for taking some time. I know you're all busy. You're probably in the midst of budget season like everyone else is. We thought we'd come and talk to you a little bit about where we are with the Maple Run budget. And we take any comments or input that you have. And I don't know, should I just go take it away? So, Kathy, if you want to come down to those success measure dashboard, in the handout it's the second page. The first page has more detail to it, but what I thought I'd do before we got into budget was just give a little context of how Maple Run's doing. So for the past, we've been able to keep our systems for measurement. One of the things the board's really been on, the school district is about monitoring for our results. And so since COVID, this goes back to the year 2021, we've seen some real improvement within the school district. It's not exactly where we'd like to be, but we've come up quite a bit from where we were, from both student performance, but also on some other measures as well. One of the ones that's hardest to see day to day is just student attendance. If you're in the school, you're like, wait a minute, 57% of our kids are meeting our target for attendance, which is 9 or fewer absences in the year. Which means, that's the federal standard, is that you're there students there 95% of the time. That's improved 35% since 2021. And we also know that attendance is one of the #1 correlating data points to student success. You gotta be there to learn. And so, that's been really hard to turn. We've tried several different pieces, and we're trying a whole new attendance campaign that started this January around just parents, kids get school. We're in kind of a different place we were, where people learned, and I see it in the workplace as well, not just in education, but everywhere I talk to my colleagues who are in independent business, it's just keeping people there in attendance. Our behaviors are one that we're really championing is our kids. We have 2 different measures, one that measures all types of different instances, from very minor things of like, hey Marianne, will you do that? And she says, just ignores me, to physical aggression or verbal aggression. The really minor stuff is staying constant at about 78-79%. That really hasn't changed in those 3 years. But what's really improved is our major blow-ups with students. And that's really, we call it our major instances, and we want kids to have 4 or less a year. And if you have a repeated, what we call minor, which is the little description I used with Mary Ann, if you do 3 of those within a day, that turns into a major. And so that's really improving. We're finding that 96% of our students are doing really well that way. Our literacy has improved about 60% over the 3 years. Our math, it says 255%, and that's a true change percentage. The reason was we were way down to low single digits. I will tell you our literacy is about 2% over the national average, and our math is about 1% or 2 below the national average. And then the last one is our social emotional learning, and this is self-reported by students. That's probably the score I'm the most proud of with all what's worked, and that's what's changed first for us. It's a leading indicator for academics. 84% of our students feel that they feel belonged in the school. It's a caring, nurturing environment, and we're scoring at like the 94th percentile nationally on that. So our kids are really feeling that sense of belonging. As that's improved, we've watched our academics be like a year and a half behind. So it's a really good leading indicator for us. So it's been really nice to see that. So I just want to tell you a little bit about our budget timeline, as you probably all well aware of. We were one of two districts in Franklin Grand Isle counties that passed on the first try. So right away, the board looked at us and said, start planning for a tighter budget. What can you do to be more efficient, more effective, and start working on that, and while keeping costs down and keeping services the same. During the spring and summer of 2024, we actually started a new budgeting process where we look across the district at all these different inputs and say, what should not only how should we spend the money, but how should we staff the schools? And because we had not been doing that, we're really looking at different factors, and this is done in many other places in the nation. It's one of the few things that hasn't been done in Vermont and it's starting to come to Vermont by looking at these inputs. How do you change your staffing patterns? And that's what's been in the news, is the staffing is the pieces. We're a human endeavor. 80% of our budget is staffing.
Okay, could you repeat what you just said?
80%.
No, before that, when you said this is the first time we've looked at staffing.
Across the district, like at what the inputs are. Not, we used to look at it by school. Instead, now we're looking across all of Maple Run and saying like, all right, how do we staff this? What's the staffing needs within the different parts of the organization based on the number of students, the students in need, that's where you see students on plans and interventions, free and reduced lunches. What it used to be is, how did the school buildings come in prior to the merge? And there was adjustments to try to get a budget passed, frankly. And it wasn't necessarily done on a systemic process. We've now done that on a systemic process based on the 7 inputs that you see listed under those little bullets there.
Yeah, that's I think you've moved in the right direction. I'm surprised the legacy was, I don't understand the legacy. I guess I want to say that I'm glad because it would seem like if you're building a budget, you build on staffing. You say, hey, what's the staffing need? And then from there, and then you look at the numbers, so.
It's because of tradition, and I can say this from the many different school systems I've worked in Vermont. We've all believed our school structure, the way we have it, is the way it should be.
Yeah, I don't.
And that's just the way it's been. I mean, it's.
Well, I was on a school board for 6 years, and that's not the way we did it. We looked at like where the kids are, where the needs are, then you allocate the staff, and like the schools are secondary. Real estate is, you mitigate at the end, but the point. Well, let me just say in a positive way. I'm glad. It sounds like your priorities are aligned with, I think, what this board tries to do is. So.
It was done on an individual school basis, but not across a whole district.
Yeah, okay.
So now we're doing it across the whole district.
Okay.
Yep. In November, the board asked us for 3 budgets. What's called a level service, which means keep all the structure and services the same. What's that cost us? You may have heard Governor Scott sent out a memo end of September asking school boards and business managers and superintendents to keep their budgets to 3%. And then what would it take for cuts to get to that 3%? And then ask for a level funded budget, which means same allocations this year as for next year. And I know you guys are all familiar with this stuff because municipal budgeting. On November 4th, we came in with almost a little under 5%. We were able to tighten that up for a level service, keeping all the same personnel and structure. On the 18th, we had 4.02%. For the past couple of years, we've had about 23 to 25 positions that stayed open. They've changed different positions. It's not the same position all the time, which represents about 2% of the budget. So the board asked us as an administration to come back with a 2% cut and come back with a budget at 2%. So what I'm about to present to you is a budget at 2% for the Maple Run. If you want to move down, one more slide. This is where I'm skipping. So the budget we're bringing is about $1.5 million up, which is a $77,757,599, so 2% increase. Our revenues have not come up as strong, so it's going to increase on the tax revenues. which will bring us, and what's, one of the things that's, without getting too technical right now, and I can go here if you'd like, but there's a new way of counting students, it's called the long-term weighted average daily membership. While our number of students in Fairfield, St. Albans Town, St. Albans City has been growing, our long-term weighted average, which gets factors for poverty, students of a second language, and what grades they're being taught in, is actually going down almost 2.25%. So that's driving up the cost of the spending per pupil to 5.11%, while the board took care of holding us to that 2% education spending. So a percentage under what the governor had asked for.
You mentioned revenue. The revenue's not on this page, correct?
They are, they don't show the revenues on there. What you'll see is it's a difference, Brian, between the 77 million, the 58 million. It's a little over $19 million in revenue outside of state ed fund. So we're charging ed fund 58,751,000 and change. So what's causing that increase? If you flip to the pie chart that's here, because we are at 80% staffing, about $763,000 is salaries. That's 40% of the increase. 37% of the increase is healthcare. It's at almost 700,000. And then you'll see tuitioning, transportation and property services, but I can tell you most of this is tuitioning, is almost a $437,000 increase, or 23%. That's offset by we're sunsetting the bond payment for the city school, and savings from other employee benefits are actually going down, and we've cut some places in supplies and equipment.
And tuition would be for students that are going off campus?
That's exactly what it is. It's what we call out-of-district placements. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in a little bit from some of the data.
Now, you call this fiscal year 2026.
That's correct.
That's for next year's budget,
That's
it's
for next year's-
2026?
Yeah, because we're in 2025, and it's July to June. July 1st, 2025 is July 1st.
Okay, okay.
Yep. So some of the places that we're seeing the biggest increases, and I'll show you some of the decreases. Direct instruction, which is our largest category throughout the whole budget, it's almost a $20 million category, is seeing a $676,000 increase, but it's only 3% of that line. And so that's anyone, classroom teachers, special educators, unified arts teachers, so that's that direct instruction piece. And then you see regular education. We have three major parts of our budget. We have regular education, special education, and the tech center. So when we get into special education, you'll see student supports is increasing $607,000, almost 25%. And you might ask what that is. It's like occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech and language services, behavioral interventionists, so behavioral supports that are in the district. And then that out-of-district placement is increasing for tuition for students to go out of the district is about $415,000, or almost 23%. And then student transportation, you see this is under special education. So this is for students for related services happening outside the district or out-of-district placement at like a Brightality or Laraway. That's going up almost 70% to $300,000. So I can tell you under the curriculum instruction pieces, Brianne King's our new business manager, and she's been reclassifying things, so there's actually some jobs that shifted from direct instruction to curriculum instruction services, so we can do more of a return on investment. And what we see in guidance and student supports and operation and maintenance facilities, when I see those percentages at 3.65 or 2.27, that seems about right, because we have a negotiated salary increase for the teachers for next year for 4%, and with our healthcare increases, that takes it up to about 6% that we're seeing on personnel costs. If we just kept the same people at the same steps, that's about what we're seeing. So those are some of the biggest places. As you can see, there's a lot of special education with big costs there. On the next page, you'll see the decreases, like where our costs going down. So direct instruction and special education, this is where we had a lot of open positions. And when the principals looked at, and the leadership team looked at, where are we gonna cut to get down from 4% to 2%? If we were able to cut an open position so we didn't have to ask someone to leave, we took those. That's not guaranteed, not all those reductions are just open positions, some of those have people in them. The bond, that's at city school, I said that's one of the things going away. District operations, which is central offices, work, and other district services that are that go through the district budget but service all the schools. A good example of that is OTP, occupational therapy and physical therapy. So there's some things that we do across all the buildings that go through the district. You'll see psychological services, it's one less psychologist. And then we were able to tighten up student transportation and office of principals and technology services. One of the things that we're starting to contend with, oh, actually, let me show you. This is the next page that has the green on it, and sorry, it's a little blurry. But with this tax rate, with this budget increase of 2%, we're gonna see the tax rate in the city go up about 3%, 3 cents. So it's 2.8 cents. In the town, it's a 8.99 cent increase. And in Fairfield, it's a 5.5 cent decrease for taxes for next year. That, I should have brought my book, but I think that represents about a 3.5 to 3.75% decrease on taxes for this, in Fairfield. For FY26 if this were adopted.
And that's because Fairfield's currently at 139%, which will translate for the common level of appraisal.
You've got it, Brian. What happened is they changed the way they're doing the common level appraisal calculation. Last year at the end of the session, they changed how they were doing that, but it actually took Fairfield's assessed almost right around 100% right now, but they divide it by the statewide average, and it pushes it up to 139%. The city appraisal rate right now is at 56%. But when you divide that by the statewide average, it comes to.
This is not to be just a positive input, but
Yeah.
when you present a budget, it's helpful to see the increases or decreases.
Yeah.
But it would also be helpful to see what's the budget for direct instruction as it relates to all these other categories.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good suggestion.
Because you can kind of lose
Right.
the big picture of, say, where's the money going? It's cool to see the changes, but
So what I cut out of here was you would have had all those expenditures and revenues that would have shown you that with all the changes. That's something I gave the board, but I just cut it off of this to try to make this a little short.
Okay.
But I can get you those.
So these are,
Yeah, you've got it right there. Like,
okay, that was
I
sent
don't
to
have
us?
that version.
we can get you that. version.
Okay.
Well, I'll make sure we get it to you, Kathy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. So for the ballot language, last year in the yield bill, it also turned to CLA, it also turned us back to an old ballot language that you're used to seeing before that would say, we're gonna ask the voters, shall we expend the 77,757,499? But at the same time, we have to tell you the percent of change of education spending per pupil. Well, while the board did their good work with us as the leadership team to keep us at 2%, on the ballot, it's gonna say a 5.11%. That's after it goes through and calculate that change in students at long-term weighted average daily membership change that really happened because of a way of how poverty is being, and free and reduced lunch is being accounted for at the state. For a couple of years through the pandemic, families were not being take off the rolls of free and reduced lunch, and this year, it's starting to, this school year, so we're being compared to last year when we weren't doing that, and this year we are, and that drives up that to 5.11%, when it's actually a 2% spending increase. The last thing I'll tell you about, I want to tell you a little story about me. Ryan, I'll go over this right now, Kathy, but I'll just quickly tell you that The board had been looking at those 3 different budget scenarios, so we've been telling them what areas we would have to cut in order to get to different tax rates. So that's what you kind of see by this is different tax rates on the right-hand side. And that yellow highlighted area is where the budget we brought last week and we'll be bringing again this week. And you can see the total number of FTEs or positions that will be cut to get to that, to those tax rates. And one of the things that became really interesting the week before winter break was we really got on top of, we've been watching our behavior data a lot.
Excuse me, before we go on,
Yeah.
so when you say total FTEs,
Yeah.
so that's 12.5, you're saying there was, do I understand it correct that there was 20 unfilled FTEs at the start of the budget process? And that you permanently reduced 12.5 of positions that weren't staffed?
No. So what we had is, let me start at the top. If we had a level service budget, we'd have 0 FTEs cut. If we cut it by 1%, we would get to 7.5 FTEs cut. If we get to 2%, it's another 12.5 FTEs or a total of 20.
Okay.
That would be cut. We had between 23 and 25 positions that remained open, but they were different positions because sometimes you might fill a custodian and then you had a paraeducator leave, or you might fill a teacher. So we were averaging between 23 and 25 positions for over 2 years that remained open. It was always around about $1.6 million. And it was a mixture of teachers, education support staff, and non-union staff. The board said, we've been seeing you living with that. We know it's not where you want to be, it's not where you need to be, but in order to meet the tax rates, we need you to think about not having those positions. And so what we did is we didn't say it was a 1-for-1, all the ones that were unfilled were going away. We sat down as a group and said, okay, we have to cut $1.6 million. I will tell you the principals and the central office directors were really like, okay, can we live without this position that's not filled right now? And if the answer was yes, that's what got cut. But if the answer was there's something else we'd rather live without than that, then we're looking at positions people have filled right now.
How does that set you up for next year? When you, that's a significant, seems like a significant amount of FTEs that you're, how does that play into next year?
That's gonna make us, it's gonna be harder to do the work.
Right, that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking.
It's gonna make it harder to do work, it's gonna be harder to service students and kids, and it's gonna put more work on the staff that's there right now.
Well, in addition, it's gonna be harder to absorb next year's, the budget process is gonna be more
Yeah,
difficult.
we won't
Right.
have this, we won't be at 2% in
Right.
FY '27.
Right, okay.
It will make more peaks and valleys because we are tighter.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
So I want to tell you about some of the things we're dealing with, that's the budget. One of the things that we've really had is a real deep dive in our behavioral data. Remember before I said 96% of our students are doing really well behaviorally? Well, 4% are not, and that's about 120 kids. And what we've learned with those, really deep diving in that data in about 3 or 4 weeks is we already knew that there were a few kids that were causing a lot of our instances, but we didn't know how few the few were. And how many instances was. We have 2 kids that represent, of the 120 students, there were something, let's just say there were 300 instances. 2 students represented 16% of those instances. So one of the things the board said to me last week, I don't remember who it was at the table, but said, so what are you doing for those kids? I'm like, yeah, we're on that, we're working on that. 24% or 9% of the students in that 120, but these are the really big instances that can take multiple people, multiple hours a day to deal with that student instance. Represents 60% of the instances. So 52% of the students have more than 10 instances, which is like 80% of them. We know these kids are on plan. 73 plus another 4, so 77 of them are on some sort of plan for services. So my question's kind of on the last page, which is, our most significant cost increase by percentages are in special education, out-of-district placement, and transportation to out-of-district placement. Our district behavior quantitative data shows that 96% of our students meet our district goal of 4 or fewer major behavior referrals in a year. So if a few students are taking more and more resources to provide education, which we must do, I would say not only legally, but ethically, that's our big cost increase. Currently, we have 28 students who are outplaced. They're getting their education outside of a Maple Run school. 12 more students are on a waiting list to go out. And 10 students are learning through what we call outside tutorial, where they get their education somewhere off campus. I actually know where it is. The average cost when we put a student for outside placement is $100,000, and the average cost for the transportation to get them there every year is about another $25,000 on top of that. So if we figured it out the week before winter break. If we create our own tutorial program instead of paying someone else to do it, those 10 kids that are on tutorial cost about $600,000. We found a grant that can pay for us to create the tutorial program, and we can take that $600,000 out of the budget. We already did that between draft 2 and draft 3. And we can find a way to do that ourselves. So we're looking for any and all good ideas, because these kids need their educational services. That's what we're here to do. That's what public education does. But how do we do it more efficiently? How do we do it more effectively? And how do we help the kids we have some kids, and it's not just a school problem, it's a societal problem. We've all heard about it, right? You can hear the news, you can hear what's going on. I talked to our partners at CVOEO. There's some families that are really hurting. And we have kids that are really hurting. So I had this conversation with everybody in the social services in Franklin County. How do we figure out a way to deal with this problem that's tapping all of us really hard? That's our biggest cost increase right now, are some really high cost services. And so I think it's a really reasonable budget. Marianne, I've spoken a lot. I don't know what you want to add, but we're really pushing to get to something, because we heard it from the community. 12%, 9% the past 2 years is not sustainable. Get it to something we can sustain.
I think this is something that we need to send to Montpelier to message loud and clear.
Yeah, I was doing that today, actually, before I came up here. I was on an online meeting with legislators between the 2 times we've seen each other today.
Yeah.
But
I think they need to really take that part seriously more.
what we're seeing is a collapse of the social services system, and schools cannot say, no, you can't come. And people have figured that out. The laws have made it so you come in, we serve you. We have to do everything we need to serve you. So. Anybody take any questions, any comments?
What if, you increase this district 2%, what if Burlington increases by 15%? How's that level?
So we're a statewide funded system.
Right,
So every district gets to vote on their budget, be it what it is.
Right.
So you can have one district go up 500,000,
right,
another district go down 250,000, and we can stay equal. And the taxes to raise that dollar yield has to adjust for all the increase in spending
Right.
in the state of Vermont. So it could be Burlington, it could be Brattleboro, it could be
Right.
my old district of Morristown, Elmore, where I live right now.
yeah,
Could all, it's about the decision of the local voter, but we're a statewide funding system, so that burden has to be felt across the state.
yeah. That's an issue.
Yeah,
To me,
that's,
yeah.
that's crazy.
That was, Act 60 started that back in '98.
Hopefully they can turn that around, straighten that somehow, but,
What's a tutorial program?
Tutorial program is, I can't come to school for some reason. Could be either health related or disciplinary related, but we're required to provide you education, and you'd come for 2 or 3 hours and you'd keep up with your classes of what's going on in school.
Okay, so you would build or buy or
We
modify?
buy right now, but we're gonna build our own because it's gonna be more cost prohibitive to do it that way.
So you asked for suggestions, this is
Yeah.
just a mind, because you closed on it, and you said
Yeah.
$25,000 per year per student that goes
Trans.
out,
Yeah.
you know, I always see buses that are 30, 25, you know, big buses.
Yeah.
Transporting one kid.
Yeah.
And, you know, is Uber or any kind of
So we
taxi
do-
service?
The
or-
ones we're talking about go through the St. Albans taxi service.
Oh, okay.
Because there's, some people say, well, why don't you consolidate that? And the problem is we have to go to Laraway, Britality, Lunaway, Clare, Nichols Howard, another 2 down in Burlington, and they're all trying to get the kids there at the same time, so you're,
Go to Woody's.
Okay.
yeah.
Nobody said it was easy, right?
No one said.
Those statistics you talk about, the students that require, it sounds like Church Street, where there's like 20 people that are causing,
Well, the Burlington's doing the same, right? It's a few that are causing all the
Yeah.
problems.
Yeah,
It's a societal piece that we've gotta try to,
yeah,
I don't know what the answer is, I wish I knew what the answer
yeah.
was.
My daughter lives in St. Albans, and one suggestion I have is the bus stops, you could probably, he comes up, he stops, he goes around the corner, he stops, he comes up, stops again, then he goes, 4 stops on Park, that little street, it's crazy, when everybody could just walk to one spot.
Yeah, well,
Society.
yeah, I don't know how much that really affects our busing. Our buses down in the city are really efficient. And it's like anything, I've told you before, most of my career is rural education. Like,
Yeah.
this is the biggest school, before working here, the biggest school, elementary school I had was the same size as Fairfield, and the smallest were 30s,
Yeah.
40s and 60s, right? And the big cost was transportation because of the rural nature of it. Down in the city, their routes are 20 minutes to get around the city.
so that previous presentation that you sent us, the previous,
Yeah,
you showed your student population
Yep.
going down, I think it was 54 students this year.
right, but since we merged, we've lost 30 students over 9 years. And in the state, during that same time, there's been a loss of 5,000 students. We've been very stable. And our staffing has actually stayed, although it's done this, our staffing has stayed very constant.
Yeah, no, it just looked like it looked like this year, you had a chart in there
Yeah.
that showed, it was like 5 years, and then this year, it seemed like it went down. The question is, what's the demographics for the next 15
good.
years for this?
Good question. We've actually, we're part of a group, so we get free demographic services, and they do all the projections. We're looking at probably plus or minus 1% for the next 5 to 7 years. After that, it's hard to really project.
Do you know what Fairfield is off the top of your head?
No,
What
I
is-
don't. I haven't done Fairfield, 'cause we do all 3 towns.
Could you share with us the I know there's demographers.
Yeah,
that do this,
we have
and they-
demographers,
and
yeah.
they say, what's the age group of,
Right, yeah.
so it's very predictable, but we are having some discussions about growth and not,
Yeah.
in Fairfield. So if
Yeah.
you could share, when you have a minute, please
Yeah.
just share with us what the projections are
Yeah.
for our school for like the next 5 years.
I don't know if I can give you Fairfield, I can definitely give you Maple Run, but I will give you whatever I have.
Yeah, well, we would like granularity, so whoever the demographer, we want to know about Fairfield, just as it relates to, we'll take anything you get.
Yeah.
And a contact information for the person who compiled it, because then we can drill down and,
Let me see if I can find out.
okay, cool,
Yeah.
very great.
Let's say somebody on the school board should be able to have that, Fairfield board.
That's,
That's muffin.
this is what we have, one rep now.
2.
Yeah, two.
We're
Two.
two, that's right.
Yeah, John
But
and
it's-
Rose as well.
Yeah, well, anyways,
Yeah,
just,
well, I'll see what I
that
get.
would help,
Let me
I
see
mean,
what I
we're
get.
having some conversations on
Yeah.
that subject, it would
Yeah.
be,
Let
yeah,
me see what I can get you.
and I know.
I'll ask.
It's been
Yeah.
250, hasn't it, like roughly around
What?
Fairfield?
It's around 340 is the K-12.
We sat right here at this table a month ago, and
Yeah.
we heard from a representative from Swanton that said, you know, like education finance.
Yeah,
He had some numbers right off the top of his head that I was impressed with, and I'll butcher it a little bit, and maybe you can help me, but it was, we have a school system, we have a legacy school infrastructure that was designed for 120,000 kids.
yeah,
Right now, we have 90,000 kids, and he said we had 5,000 births in this state this year, 5,000. So if you take 5,000 and you extrapolate 12 years, or whatever the number was,
Yeah,
he said, we're gonna have with anything, all things being equal, we're gonna have 60,000 kids with an infrastructure that's designed for 120,000 kids. And this isn't like staffing, this is just, and one thing I know about airplanes, you can grow to profitability by putting more people on the airplane and going, you know, you literally, your unit cost goes down and you can become profitable. And conversely, the other way, if your infrastructure is getting at 50% capacity, it drives your unit costs up and you gotta make disproportionate cuts. So as a
Right.
state, you know, we're talking about education, finance,
yeah.
but the demographics have a huge impact, as you know. I mean,
Oh,
this
yeah,
is,
yeah, huge impact. I've watched it in my career.
I'm interested in that, where you got those numbers and what that's about, because part of my concern with the educational system is the amount of money that we're spending from the educational system to provide other services in schools that aren't necessarily education services. And I'd be very curious to find out when they did that, what services were provided in school then, and what services we're providing in school now. I think the services we provide in school are very important, but I think the funding, we morph everything into the educational fund. And we're paying everything through educational dollars. And some of that should be paid for through social service monies. And I think that's I think two things are really hurting education right now. Insurance, which is hurting everybody, I don't care what you do, is going on double digits every year for everybody. And you saw the growth in one of the charts. And nobody can contain that in this room or this state, or I think in the whole federal government. And then the second one is the amount of money we're paying through educational dollars for social service stuff that's being provided to the students in schools, which that might be the proper place to provide the services, but are we funding it through the proper funding mechanism? And I think that that's a real, for me, that's what I see as a real issue that needs to be looked at. And, you know, to Bill's point, they walk through the door, we don't have a choice. It's not that we're not going to provide whatever these kids need. We've got no choice but to provide whatever, and some of these are really, you know, as you're seeing tonight and learning, some of them are very pricey, you know, big price tags on what we're providing for services that are, you know, not, in my opinion, should be paid for through the education fund. And I think that's where we gotta step back and look.
I don't disagree with that. I acknowledge that.
Yeah.
One of the stats that you showed in the previous presentation that you sent
Yeah.
to us is that per pupil staffing
Yeah.
for Maple Run is at 4 point something.
That's the state, that's Vermont. Vermont's at 4.4.
Okay, what was your-
Members.
What was your number?
I don't know that I put a Maple.
Because it had the state of Maine was like 4 point.
Right.
Yeah, it was Vermont in terms of lowest student teacher ratio.
Yeah, it has
Was
the
Vermont, then Maine, then,
Yeah.
you know, all the other New
Yeah.
England states.
Yeah, Vermont.
And I was
Vermont's the
curious,
lowest.
because the real cost of a school is
Yeah,
staffing, and then
Yeah.
per pupil ratios,
Yeah.
and it's not just the classroom teacher, because the class size is, what's your average class size, 9 through 12?
9 through 12. I'd have to go grab the sheet.
Or I mean, what do you got, like 15, 18?
Somewhere in that
Yeah,
area.
it just shows there's a lot of other
Yeah.
staff
Yeah,
that's
and then
supporting.
K8, we're probably in the 14s to 18 area average.
Yeah.
I wish I had brought that sheet. I have it on my laptop, but we were looking at that back in December as a board, and all fall. There's a lot of other staff, and you're right about that, Brian. You know, roughly, we have about 570 FTEs, and we have about 2,600 students, so I can do that division. Give me a calculator, let me pull out my phone, and I'll tell you what our ratio is. The state of Vermont is 4.4 staff members to students back in 2019. That was done by the joint JFO for the state, and you know, the national average is around 6 to 7. So, and that's true of New England's. Brian's got all the data right. That's New England. If we have high numbers, or low numbers is actually, it's not a high number, it's a low number, but it makes costs high.
That's another interesting formula to me, in terms of how they do that, in terms of staff to student. I'm way more interested in teacher to student and how many are actually in that classroom, because I think that's very misleading in terms of, you know, the 4.4, well, that's great, you only have 4 kids in your class that you're teaching, you should be, that's not even close to what it is, and I understand it says staff, not teacher, but why do we need to have the staff to student? What's important is how many kids are sitting in front of you with all of these challenges that we just talked about that you're trying to teach to. What is the right number? And I don't know if there's a specific right number, but I'm concerned about, you know, staffing going down in the teacher part of it and the numbers going up for the students, and you just increase the problems in your classroom. And what is that going to mean now for having to deal with other services? And I'm concerned, obviously, as an educator about what that's going to mean by increasing class sizes.
It's all part of the stew that you guys, the great satisfaction you have is solving these tough problems.
Well, I want to thank you. You have any questions or concerns or anything else that arises?
No, thank you very much.
You know how to get us. I appreciate your time. I know you have a lot to do tonight. If you're like us, you're trying to get somewhere in the next week or so. Get to a ballot. Full warning. What'd I miss? All good?
Good.
All right. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Coming up.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming up.
Yeah.
I know you're busy. You got a long drive, right?
No, it's
Yeah.
10 minutes closer.
Thank you, Rusty.
Yeah, Elmore is still a hell of a drive.
If that's the worst part of my job, which it is the worst part of my job.
I don't know, it might be nice to have quiet power.
It lets me reflect and then get ready in the morning. So I really like working here. I keep coming back. As long as they'll have me.
You did one of those What's Up Fairfields?
What?
You did one of those What's
Yeah.
Up
Oh, yeah.
Fairfields with
Yeah.
Adam, and I think Emmeline did it with
Yeah, yeah.
Adam is my son.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
he was excited to do that. He's-
Yeah. The kids, anytime kids ask me to do anything, it's like, yes, I just like clear my schedule.
That's one of those good programs that
There's a lot of good programs.
it's outside of
Oh, yeah.
some of the regular, but that was,
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of gyms right across the street here. I think I should be really proud about that school. It's our best, on return on investment, that's the best school in the district. It's very efficient, and the kids are doing well.
well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Drive safe. Thank you.
Appreciate Rusty for everything else. I'll tell you what I got wrong.
How you doing, Tom?
I guess.
Oh, come on, you gotta know.
Never know.
Yeah.
Nobody's
Yeah,
gonna do that.
let me, just email me, all right? Yeah.
How about if I make a motion, Tom, for approve the minutes from 30 December?
I'll second that.
Any resolutions or comments on it?
I'm good with it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any time report, clerk?
She wrote her report. Linda says that the petition request deadline for the town report is Thursday, January 16th. Petitions need to have at least 76 signatures from legal voters in the town. So far, VNA and Hospice of the Southwest Region, formerly Franklin County Home Health, is asking for $3,971, and the community center is asking for $18,000. They have submitted and completed their petitions. Both are the same requests as last year. The deadline to submit reports to the town report is also Friday the 17th. Actually, before this, the deadline for petitions was the 16th. The deadline for reports is Friday the 17th. And the warning for the town report will need to be signed by the select board at your next meeting on the 27th, so that they can go to print, because the print deadline is the 28th. So we're right in the middle of it, and the auditors are coming this Thursday.
So was that January or February? 16 January? January, okay.
Yeah, the go to print date is the 28th of January, so everything really has to be compiled and ready to go before your select board meeting, and then it gets out the door. So that's Linda. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay, so I talked to Sandy Ladd at Charlie Boy, and the sales agreement that we had, you had asked about where we are with the new truck that's coming up. So the 2025 truck is scheduled to be delivered here by late spring of this year. If we want the early payment discount, he can invoice us. It'll mean a $5,000 off the cost of that truck, the chassis. So I looked into what we have with our equipment funds, and wanted to give that to you as well, as you consider whether or not we want to pay in advance.
You have to pay everything or just part of it?
No, it's just part of it. So the actual quote that they gave us was for $193,100. The chassis is $157,274. So he would take $5,000 off that, so it would be $274.
What's that number for the chassis again?
$152,274 would be the discounted rate.
152,274?
Is the discounted rate for the chassis. So, I wanted to just also follow up at the last meeting. I had run out and gotten a print off of the equipment fund and gave you wrong information. So we had some money.
Before you do that,
Sorry.
do you want to, I'm not interested in paying for a truck that we haven't got yet, to save $5,000. I don't know, maybe I'm in the mirror, but I don't, do you want to take action on that, or give you feedback?
So I wanted to give you information about the budget or the equipment fund, if you wanted, if that was part of the conversation.
Okay.
I can wait.
To get the discount, you gotta pay the full amount then.
You have to pay so there's gonna be a balance, because the total amount of the vehicle, I think the plow package and all of the other stuff is $87,000. And then we have,
So the chassis is 100, to get 5,000, we're gonna pay 153.
to save 5,000, you pay 153. So altogether, the total cost with the trade-in is 193,100. And I can give this to you.
The equipment fund's in a CD, right? What's this-
So we have an equipment fund CD, the balance is $292,455.
What's it paying for interest?
The interest rate is 0.2%.
That can't be right. 2%?
CD or American? What American?
That's off the website. That's our current. CD.
So we put 67 down already.
So the down payment is actually the trade-in, the cost of the
0.2%, I
trade-in.
don't know,
So we didn't put a down
He's paying
payment on
4 or
this
5%
because the cost of
right
the trade-in is 67,000. He considered
That
that.
makes sense, doesn't it?
And then
No,
if
don't
we
make
want,
any sense.
so that it's due, the chassis is due, if we want to pay 5% less, I mean, $5,000 less.
So we haven't made any down payment at all then?
We haven't made a down payment on this.
Then,
We have an agreement, a
right,
signed agreement.
I wonder what the trade-in's gonna be.
The trade-in is
Right, that was
67,000.
a year ago when we looked at the truck. We put another
Hey, Mo,
1,000 hours on it and
They sign the paper
If
on
the
it.
used motor vehicle which has been traded,
I don't care what you signed, we're marking it out. Hey, Mo. Hello. Done plowing for the day?
no,
So what's the,
it's not my experience that
Ron,
once we
what's,
sign this,
what's
they
the
change
earning
that number,
on
but I
the
can look
money
back.
that's in the,
I see it's it says 0.2%.
yeah, but I mean, money wise, what's the amount?
Oh, I don't know.
295, 292?
Yeah, but what do you get for interest, I should say, you know, what are you making on it?
0.2.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Hardly anything.
We, one or two of us should go to the bank and have a discussion. 'cause
Yeah, that's,
we're gonna pull our money out of there at a
Yeah.
rate that's ridiculous.
yeah.
We,
Well, you get short-term CDs for 5%,
Yeah.
4%.
as I say, the interest rate just dropped because we just had a couple renew auto and they're not as good as they were, but 0.2, I'm not
Yes.
gonna leave my money in there.
No.
Oh,
I can make an appointment. There are
I
three
think
signers.
one of us needs to go in.
So there are
and-
three signers, so you should take either Tom, me, or Amanda with you because they're the ones who were the signers. So if they have something, that's why we have the motion to make
Right, I can
changes.
get that, but
They can still go in and talk
Yeah, they can.
on behalf,
Yeah,
so. But I'm saying if you're not making any interest, not making any money on that CD, I'd rather pay those guys and get $5,000.
I don't disagree with that, I was uncomfortable writing a check for something that we have, in this today's world with supply chains, but I don't dispute your logic. If they're not
agree with
required,
you, but
I think we've always done it in the past, and so, but it makes, you know, it's up to the board.
At that interest rate, you might as well get the 5,000. I was thinking the interest rate would make up the difference in that 6-month period. Yeah.
yeah. For the next meeting, can you bring all of our CDs in
I can.
and a list of, maybe even in the next day or two, try to put that together?
I have to do it for the audit, which is due on Thursday.
Perfect. So, because we should go to the bank and say, listen, this is,
No, that's,
we should have all that, I mean,
That is also recorded in the town report as, under the town admin report. So if you look into the town admin report, it's all in there on the, I think, third page of that report. So we haven't changed the rates from last year, it should be right there for you guys.
When does that, discount, when does that have to be applied?
So now, right now, they have four, so it has to be applied before the chassis goes in for the final, all of the final construction. So right now, there are four ahead of us. So before we get to the front of the line, it has to be paid, otherwise it's the full amount.
So you don't know what the date is on that?
There's no specific date, he wouldn't give me a specific date. He thinks that it'll be going in within the next 3 months, but he didn't quote me on that, like, and then that we would get it in late spring, so. that doesn't really tell much either.
This is Charlie Boyce?
Mhm.
Well, I don't, I defer to Tom. I mean, for the board, I don't. They're certainly a reputable,
Yeah, we have a long history with them.
So with, you know, if we, you'd still have, what, $104,355 in there. That's before you put any of the 2024 budget, 2025 budget in the account.
So, first off, are we paying for this truck cash? Are we taking any loans on it? Do we have anything else that's gotta come out of that equipment fund right off?
Nothing in terms of, you were all talking about a new purchase in the last meeting. I'm not sure what.
this is greater, I think it was a long range
Right, that's
discussion.
long range.
Okay,
Brush
stuff.
cutter too, there's, we talked about.
so we're gonna be paying off our current 2023 truck this year. So that's out, there's no other loan that we have, so we don't, a loan is an option.
I mean, on that, even if, when we pay this out, we have 104 left, we have another 87 on the plow and dump and accessories, right?
So.
If you're gonna go to the bank for that CD, I would do that before I pay them. Cause, you know, it's a,
Let's table that discussion about paying for the chassis, and do you wanna call it,
I'm gonna go to the bank.
Okay, well then Dave will go to the bank, and the next meeting we'll,
Okay.
and I think we were gonna put together an equipment list for like, maybe
Yeah.
we'd have that at the
That's
same
fine.
time, to, you know,
I can look at that, yep, we started doing that, the insurance company
sure.
required that. We do have a person,
Get it.
a loan and CD
You must
person
have
over
a
there.
pretty good date as to when that's gonna go in. You know, it's not 3 months, they have better numbers than that.
I'll try to get some information.
Huh?
I'll give him a call and talk to him, so.
You know, if we're gonna pay, I wouldn't wanna pay too early, but,
don't pay too late.
no.
Yeah, no, he said that it needed to, that we have, I think, he said 4 in front of us, and that he expects us to be in there within the next 3 months.
Okay, so we can wait till next
See if
meeting.
Yeah, we have time.
Okay,
that trade-in value stays
Yeah,
current, if it's still good or if it's gonna go down, since it's,
Okay.
gonna be a little older, they're,
So
he must-
I did email him just yesterday, and he submitted this back to us, so I'm assuming it would still be true.
cool. We'll table it.
yeah. So if you can get those rates, what the accounts, the rates, and who your contact is.
Yes, yep, I have actually, there's one person for loans and there's one person for, I don't think he's the same person, so yeah, I'll get that contact for you.
Good.
I don't think Sue Cross is there, and I think she's semi-retired or something.
I'm going above there.
Huh?
Yeah. Between the town and the fire department, we have a lot of money there to be giving us 0.2%. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy, yeah.
It's,
Maybe you can talk to
Move
Mr.
that
Ryder.
decimal point.
You can get that, checking account.
I wonder if it
Decimal
has
point
to do
should
with,
be
Yeah.
2% or not 0.2.
you
He
should
ain't worried.
maybe ask them about,
Oh,
the
yeah.
maturity, how often it matures. I believe that this one matures monthly.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, that'd be like a
You should ask them.
2.2 annual percent, but it's worth going in and talking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good thing.
okay, so, did you have any other questions about the, accounts, the transportation accounts that I can answer today or can get back to you other than, is there anything else? Because it came up in our conversation last week and I just wanted to make sure that I had answered your questions. Okay.
Let's just pause yours a minute.
Sure.
Let Morris do what he can go home.
Oh, go ahead.
That, the Ford 600, the transmission is gone in it, and both the Viking, they're trying to figure it all out. That pump they had in there, it, they let loose and they took the transmission. You got the pump and you got a sunlight that goes into the, runs off the flywheel. And I guess the bolts loosened up and that went out. And so,
Wow.
as right now, 3 days ago it was, the truck gonna go to St. Johnsbury Ford dealership and get a transmission put in it. But we could be a month without it, they said. Now, they're blaming the pump manufacturer, so they're squabbling over who's gonna,
Somebody's gonna go in for it though.
yeah, right. Ain't gonna be us, I mean,
They give you a spare?
nope.
Good question.
Can they give you a?
That's a 650, right?
Might be
That's a small.
600, that's 600.
Okay.
We had the 500, but 550, they went to 600.
And this is from where again?
Viking,
A's.
the truck came
Hayes.
from Hayes.
Hayes, and they don't have a used truck?
I would say no, but I could check with them, but Viking the one, you know,
Cause that truck must be still in the warranty, right?
oh yeah, yeah.
I would think
Ford Ford-
everything would be.
Like I said, James the one talked to him, and it sounded like there's a,
Yeah, one's gonna blame the other.
yeah, there was the blaming game,
Yeah.
so. The pump company blaming Viking for installing it, say not properly. But, I don't know where we're gonna settle and when, prices, I know we not supposed to be, ain't nothing to us, cause we
No.
don't install it and we just,
Oh,
and
but
they knew there was a problem. And then one told us keep on running, we did.
just keep good notes on it, and if they give you or James shit, get us involved sooner than later.
Oh, yeah, if any rough things that way, they will, I mean,
Does Viking have, I mean, that leaves you a truck short. That's, and that truck is key for
they.
cleanup on a big storm.
Just only,
Makes it a lot easier to keep
Yeah.
the blacktop, rather than run the big truck around, you're losing, when
Or
he's
yeah.
running the blacktop, he's not plowing the roads.
Right.
That's why I was just hoping they'd have a use one they'd let us use, if it's gonna be out that long. Month, it would be done snow.
Let's hope so.
and then,
Last year didn't start
got
snow
the
until the
grader
end of
going,
February, so
rain on
maybe,
it.
last year didn't start
Turns
snow
out
until
that
the end of
means-
February, so.
Nothing like but
Right.
I got the truck with the all-angle plow, so it makes it handy for doing this in school.
Right, the intersections and parking lots.
Yeah, it's,
Uh,
it takes us a little longer.
Do we need to look into, I mean, push Viking and say, do you have something for us, or?
Can ask them, I can, I'm trying to get hold of that Mike Murray.
I mean, I guess
Okay,
Jimmy could plow with the grader.
that's what
That's
he,
what he's been
that
doing.
we did, he goes with the hairs down to Reynolds Road and Hill, and then Vine over on West Street, he'll buck that out, so. And just grab a little sand, throw him, go behind him, after him, which ain't no big deal.
Right, right, you can at least get it cleaned out and sanded after.
Well,
The
it
big-
keeps him busy and gets another truck on, or another vehicle on the road to.
Yeah. Got James now doing the blacktop with me. So it kinda sets James back.
Right,
Now,
everything's
now,
shut.
we've been starting now ahead of the boys, trying to get where it works.
I My thought would be ask Viking,
Yeah,
I mean,
give them a call tomorrow.
may not push a lot, but it'd be handy to have.
You know anybody or any way we can get something, cause,
And it's expensive to run that grader up and down the road.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta double back and grader.
Right.
I'd rather have it graded in the
It's
summer.
Fairfield,
Yeah.
wear and tear. 4 set of chains on there, no chains ain't cheap,
No,
not for that
that's-
one. A good chain,
I guess I would push on Viking. I mean, they gave you 3 pumps that were bad.
but, yeah.
They knew they were bad after the
Yeah,
first
they
one. They
told
knew
us
they had a
about
bad
it.
batch.
I so wish I drove it and left it there until it fixed, we don't need it back.
Well, that's,
Made a mistake here, but make them every day.
no, I keep going, but they should have a little bit of skin in the game. I'm not opposed
Because
to it.
now with the transmission, that's where I put you in the month behind.
Right.
Yeah.
That way, whatever, it was sat in their yard, they would got something. I
What's
know.
that, it's like a power tank off coming off the transmission, it runs a pump for the dump?
Yep.
Yeah, about the same idea, but it runs off the
Right
flywheel.
off the flywheel.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
It's a spring, you know, that used to shim, you know, you put on the shims. Now there's spring mechanism. It's supposed to keep the pressure against the
Yeah.
flywheel, blah, blah, blah. So both loose.
Kaboom.
It's gotta go to St. Johnsbury, that truck?
That's what the Vikings
About it.
prefer to take that, I guess probably where they do their business.
Yeah.
Any good news?
Yeah, it ain't snowing. And, like, hopefully it don't snow during early morning here.
You haven't looked out the window.
Look it out. No, guess everything else, is-
How's the salt pile doing? Good?
that's been hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. You called, they were here, but they brought 2 loads. 3 more loads should be coming sometime, but everybody talked to.
Everybody's using it.
Oh, yeah, it just.
I think I had half of it on my car on the way down to Boston this week.
Is that something we wanna budget a little higher for because of the,
Every year's kind of up and down. One year salt's up, one year sand's up. Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it'll, like, we use a lot of salt this first part we ever had.
You know, it makes a lot of roads, I think the blacktop a lot better when you put on straight salt.
Yeah, don't get packed down.
Yeah. So is that spring system, is that a new,
I think so, Tom, like to Gene been dealing with them, and, I asked him today, don't come to me, and they wanna be coolest, and I don't know how long it's been out, or how they've been doing it.
if anybody else has had any problems or not? I mean, you would think, I'd rather have it solid than springs.
Yeah, like you said, the other way, like you were saying, you bolt inside the transmission, and you just shimmed it. And we had all those old trucks, we used to have those Chevrolets, that's all they had, to pump right off the transmission. You know, steering shift.
yeah.
Never had a problem. I mean, we had 140, 160,000 old trucks. Never had a problem.
Even a lot of them, they, you know, some of the old ones used to be right off the front of the drive shaft, you know, but they were bolted, they weren't spring loaded.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I didn't care when I heard about the spring. I, and why the pumps were going, they said something about the bearings in the pumps. So they're having a contest with the pump company too, I bet you. We know the ones that are sort of pump.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make some phone calls tomorrow. But anywhere.
don't be nice to them.
No.
No. We do spend a lot of money over the years down there, and
Right.
they're a local company, you know, for us to go down and get parts or bring a vehicle there.
But then when we were talking about when we bought, weren't they gonna go to New Hampshire to do the work? Or wasn't, was it, or was that?
No, we do it right here. Our, you know, HP Fairfield, our trucks used, they would go to Maine or wherever. They had one go to Maine, but they usually do them all right here, Tom.
Right there in Morrisville?
No, Williston.
Williston, they are now.
Summers.
Yeah,
I was thinking they had a shop or something in New Hampshire, but maybe I was thinking something else.
No, I remember that, that came up,
Yeah, I
something,
think
that
that was the chassis.
came up, something about New Hampshire.
Vikings,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they merged.
We got a place over in New York somewhere, but
I was thinking they said they do repairs were over there, but maybe different repairs for different things, you know?
It was a couple of years ago, I think, that they were trying to get us to think about getting things ordered way ahead of time at that point, because there wouldn't be as many options.
How's your furnace coming? It was furnace and pressure washer and
the pressure washer, using that, and
good?
the furnace.
Is that ordered? Oh,
The lights done?
What's that?
The lights?
Yes.
and you're working on a door too, right, Mark?
Yeah, entry doors. We'll get some weather open up and stuff, we'll get a few of them, get them in. We'll do it ourselves.
Sounds good.
Anything else?
No, everything else going good.
Working all the time. Pot payroll is suggesting that you guys are just working constantly right now.
You know, we all see when we had weather last week. Never seen the wind blow so steady.
I know, a week.
2 inches is just worse than, you know, a foot,
Yeah.
6 inches. Huh?
I'd rather have that for, you know,
Mhm.
you plow it and
Goes right back in.
you plow it and you send them up pretty good, it stays, but the wind like that, like you said, that 2 inches seems like it was
Yeah.
before. So steady.
Looks like a
Well, I mean,
waterfall.
blizzard 93. 93, that was first blizzard I ever plowed through, that was almost 26 inches.
In February, remember that, was that the one that was
That
on Valentine's Day?
Day.
I remember that one.
Yeah, that was a.
I still got a t-shirt, I think says Blizzard
Reed,
Is that
93.
great then?
From the railroad, yeah.
I
Railroad
was in
printed
New
some up.
Hampshire and we were,
Oh, we were plugged up
it
everywhere.
was terrible.
Yeah.
It was fun though.
But
It was a
we're
fun.
pretty lucky here, cause I know I was talking to.
I
a
was in
guy,
Buffalo,
His son is.
it's
in
gotta be
Europe.
10 years probably now, but I was in
He has a
Buffalo and
dam.
it was 7 feet of
Snows on
snow.
top of- up to
They
the
say,
top.
I never, it must be something, huh?
They
Oh, it's
have,
crazy.
You know, like
Yeah.
we got an inch, they got
Yeah.
2 feet.
That's some snow.
When?
I think 26
This week.
inches.
One of these last
Yeah.
storms, yeah. You know, where some of them, you know, like showed on TV, some of them got 2 feet, where some got nothing. I mean, 2 storms ago,
I had this.
went to St. Albans and they didn't get nothing.
Yeah, we have a weird little weather system here sometimes.
My house always gets more. I had this over the days, you know,
Yeah.
just kept going.
Yeah, it's,
I only got plowed once though.
Yeah.
And probably could have lived without it if I didn't have a car that was only this much clear.
well, you didn't make it done for me, I'm gonna do the.
Sure.
Thank you, Mom.
Thank you, sir.
See you, Mo.
Tell Michelle I haven't forgotten Dash on time. I just haven't seen her for more than 5 minutes since she asked, so
Okay,
I will get it.
okay. Good night.
Jake did drop off those forms that he brings down.
You did?
Yeah, he did.
Good,
Yeah, Rosa.
good. Thank you.
Thank you, Morris.
Thank you, Mom.
All right, let's see, so really right now I'm working on getting, budgets, and the auditors are coming on Thursday, so there's a lot of pulling of records and reconciliations and making sure that everything is in good shape. We did have an email for next meeting, a request, and I sent it to you guys, an email to the three who have emails. But there's a land conservation project that the state of Vermont wants to propose to 3 municipalities, including Fairfield as one of them, that would prioritize conservation in a whole swath of land that's currently being used. It's private property, but it's being used for sugaring, and it's not posted for hunting, so it's kind of behaving like public land, and they want to see if we can preserve it. So they would like to come and talk to the select board at our next meeting, and I did bring some information if you wanted to read about it, but I emailed it to you as well. I know that Brian had some questions that he asked that were really great, and I was just curious if you wanted to say anything about it, or you want to wait until...
No, let's wait. No, she had great answers, and, she's impressive, but we'll let them...
Yep.
Yeah, I basically asked, what's it gonna cost the town?
Yeah, right.
Or is there any impact for the
Right.
town? The grand list, any kind of grand list implications? So, she said no. But we can probe further.
Yeah.
So the only other pieces that we have tonight are the budget. You wanted to do a line-by-line look. And we have an executive session for employee personnel conversation to include myself for one topic and to include Melissa and I for another topic. So I wanted to find out if you wanted to do budget first, if you wanted to do personnel first.
I think we can do the budget first.
Okay.
While you're handing out that budget, Melissa, was there anything decided for going to the public for planning and zoning? Like, wasn't there a January engage the public?
Now changed to February 17th,
Okay, February 17th.
but we'll talk about that when we talk about it.
Okay, tonight? Okay.
So this is, I entered all of our numbers into the accounting system. When you look at, and now that we've rolled everything into the new fiscal year, that we can see it in a very easily read format. I crossed out the first line, the tax revenue line, because that includes the appropriations. The number at the top of 2024 includes appropriations. So in order to have a comparison, I wanted to make sure that you had that. I also have just the same spreadsheet that we've been looking at. If you wanted to look at it, it's a little easier. I think it's a little easier to read, but it's the same information. So, you all said you wanted to go through the budget line by line again? So I just wanted to open the opportunity. We did have a mistake in our budget when I was putting them, so it's good to have the activity of putting all of the budget numbers into NEMRIC, because I found that the spreadsheet was not calculating the health insurance correctly. So it is more of an increase to taxes than I had originally said if we keep the $75,000 revenue number. We are currently at $156,000 in surplus. So I'm talking about the surplus revenue. And I did bring a budget status report. Not a budget status, but a, let me see here, where are you? Sorry, this is a balance sheet. I don't always bring these, but this is what we have in our 10 account right now for activities. So this one breaks out assets, liabilities. You'll see that halfway down, there's that accrued payroll and liability that the auditors have to reconcile with our current, I was talking to you about that payroll, that 27th payroll, which throws everything off, but once they reconcile that, it should be fine. The deferred revenue also, it has to be reconciled. That is the money that was for the roads that they paid in advance. They also did that again, so there's been another pay in advance process that they need to reconcile those two things too. And then if you go down to the bottom, if you look at fund balance, that is the number of the historical number of fund balance.
Which paper were you using?
Sorry.
Balance one?
This one. And it's the second page. So if you look at fund balance, which is the 10-3s, that's the amount that historically every year when we had fund balance, that's what that number is. It kind of gets us through to the middle of the year. And then the current fund balance as of today was $169,000 for last year, but that's not reconciling the, when you look at current AP and payroll, we're at about $156,000.
Right, so let's go through the budget, one piece at a time. What are we looking at here?
Whichever you
Sorry,
can
I stepped
see better.
out. Okay, so let's pick one. Let's go with the proposed town budget. They're both the same numbers?
They're both the same numbers.
Okay, so let's go with the bigger, darker one. Go with that. So we have budget from calendar year '24. We have what we anticipate, so we can ignore the first column. We can just do the budget, the column in gray is what our budget is, right?
That's the current budget, and I averaged those numbers, rounded them to a prettier number than cents. So you had them at a certain amount, and then I put them into an accounting format.
Right, and the middle column is the actual 24.
Yeah, with anticipated, yep.
So we can just look at those two numbers and be
Yep.
fairly accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
So, on the, why is it looks like it's $1 million on total revenue for fiscal ※25. Should that be, what number should that be?
So that will change as you go down to the bottom, so it's 1,254,985 right now. When we So the calculations for our health insurance were not actually functioning. So we had, when I went back and I looked at our numbers and was entering it into NEMRIC, that's when I saw that there was a discrepancy between what needed to go in there and what we had. So when we calculated that into it, it became a higher number than what I told you before. And that will change, the property taxes line will change based on what you decide tonight. Specifically, really, I mean, you might change some of these lines as you go, but as you go down, just keep in mind that there's still only $75,000 in the surplus
And what are you anticipating still?
revenue line, nothing. I have it done. I am not anticipating anything. Everything has been calculated into the actual with anticipated. And I have all of this payroll.
Right, but the 75,000 is a surplus number.
This at 100, right now it's 100, I think it's $156,000.
Okay. So 156 is what we anticipate. We have 75 written into this document.
Exactly, yep.
Let's stay at 75, and if it's
Oh,
bigger,
sorry,
that's great.
154, 606.
Right, you're 54, 55, somewhere in that ballpark.
Mhm.
But we have 75,000 of that accounted for in here.
Right, as
So-
revenue.
So if we don't account for the rest of it, it's a bonus at the end.
Yes,
Right, if we actually end up being 152, 3, 4,000 over.
right.
we'll be-
So we have also, so again, going back to, we have a 6.44% increase in taxes with the, if you keep it at that. So the staff increase is 7.35%. The budget increase is 5.32%, and the tax request is 6. So the more you put into that line, the lower the increase to taxes is going to be.
Right, I'm just saying, let's aim where we are right now.
Sure,
Let's
yeah,
run
sure.
through it and then we'll adjust.
Okay. So in terms of revenue, do you want to go through every revenue line, delinquent tax? We don't have our, we did this before, and Linda was here to answer questions. These are the numbers that we came up with her.
Right, so delinquent taxes, she doesn't even have that much outstanding. And I don't think we've ever put a number in there that we anticipate something coming, but we don't necessarily budget for it.
Right.
We get some interest off of those, 3,000. 10,000 in delinquent penalties, we got 18 this year. I think she's got it down some more again, so 10 is fairly realistic. What is pilot?
Payment in lieu of taxes.
Gotcha.
So any changes to the first section, the tax
No,
section?
No, I don't think there's
Why
much
would
for
current
us.
use be less?
So we had that conversation with her last year. I mean, the last time we
Month
were
ago.
talking, and she was basically saying that it fluctuates every year.
Okay.
And, you know, she would suggest that we keep it at an average.
State aid, that number's pretty well known.
Mhm.
Miscellaneous,
So we're looking short-term CD interest, none, dog, I don't know if you wanna go through all of this, line by line, but these numbers, again, were based on conversations that we had with the,
that whole first page looks good.
yeah, it's little stuff, we don't have a lot to.
yeah, the only one that we maybe wanna look at is that line that we talked about, that we're gonna wait on. Last year, the surplus was 58,000, this year is 154,000. So select board stipends are the same, this does calculate a 3% increase in salaries, a new animal control officer. The CCC expense that we had discussed before, we actually were talking, I had quickly doubled everything because it seemed like that was the right thing to do at the time, but it is not doubled, it shouldn't have been doubled, so this is the accurate CCC expense. We only paid half of a year, and I had assumed that I had only calculated for half of a year, but actually we had,
So you're saying the 859 is the right number?
no, 1,490 for this year is correct. We had it more like 3,000,
Okay.
so it's decreased. Mileage is the same, 5,300 for dues and subscriptions.
Those all look good.
Yeah. Legal went up 1,000 based on previous.
Your insurance numbers, those are written,
These-
you know what those are
Yeah,
now.
these are accurate. These are the VLCT passive quotes.
When is the audit due to be bid again? Do you know?
I believe next year, I
Yeah,
want to say.
I thought it was 3 years.
I think it was next year.
Yeah, those numbers are pretty well written.
So,
It is a little bit provocative that dispatch is almost 3/4 of what the ambulance service is. Dave, you know, just,
Don't get me started. It's crazy. But there again, they're playing the same battle that everybody is, right? Employees, health insurance.
and it's 24/7 as opposed to on the
24/7.
call, right, okay.
um,
Is the
yeah.
ambulance service 24 hours?
Yeah. Yeah, their staff, they've got at least 2 rigs, I think, staffed 24/7.
Capital improvement fund used kept at 20,000. That hasn't changed for a while. So this is reflective of the 3% increase for town administrator, salary for clerk, and file clerk, treasurer as well. This is the correct health insurance number,
The 10 one.
yeah. The life insurance. Sorry, no, health insurance is 36. FICA is 10-1.
Yeah, sorry.
Right. Let's see. Disability, retirement. That's, automatically calculated. And that's based on, that's the municipal retirement amounts that we contribute to. Supplies is about the same. Telephone, we've considered the increases in telephone and the cost of computer expenses. Training, everything is pretty much the same here from last year. So this went up 9,540 at the town office, mostly from health insurance and salaries.
19,000.
No, 9,000.
19.
Oh, the budget
Nine.
went up, the budget, but the actual,
Oh, yeah, 9,000.
Yep.
Yeah.
9,000. Let's see, so again, auditors, this pretty much stays the same. You don't really do increases to stipends at this point. The assessors, Linda said that we really need to hold that assessor line at 18,640. She's certain that it's an accurate representation of what we'll be getting as we get farther out from our reappraisal.
That's a NIMR charge, correct?
That's a number, yep. And they invoice us for actual hours. So at this point, you know, we spent 10,000 this year, but budgeted 18. I think she thinks it's more.
Right, but the further out we get, the more keep up work is gonna be.
So that salary line, for the, it's for the, for our assessor, who used to be a lister.
Yeah, you saw that email? We got formal notification from Jim Barlow that our case is officially. So that NIMRIC assessment might be, let's just put a question mark on that going forward.
Oh, that's right, because it may be less. That's
But let's leave it like that, but just,
Leave her where it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Unless it's,
I mean, if we only spent 10,000 this year, and we might end up with, might want to decrease.
the environmental court. That would go in there.
So do you want me to keep it at 18,640?
Yep.
Okay. Like postage, I mean, everything, computer
Yeah.
expense goes down because we have NEMRIC here now. But pretty much everything else is the same. So that went down.
Looks good.
Okay, let's see, salary for zoning is the new salary rate. Stipends increased because we have 2 extra people on the zoning board. We hadn't calculated that before, so that was a change I made.
Where is the administrator, or the new person, is that working?
Zoning,
Good salary.
it's top line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that working out?
Mm-mm.
Huh?
Mm-mm.
Strong yes on
He's-
my end.
He is,
10 hours, 15 hours?
He's doing the full amount. I mean, I think I can't remember, what does it say in there? Most recent payroll. He's on second to the last at the very end, like second to the
It's
last.
probably just onboarding right there.
a lot of it is, at this point, he's figuring himself out, but
Yeah.
So if you look at his timesheet, it's the second to the last timesheet. It's there.
I know, it's there, I just can't find it.
Let's see. It's, where is it? Oh, that's why I didn't look at it. It's lost. So he did 30 hours over the last 2 weeks, so 15 hours a week.
Okay.
and yes, I would say a lot of it is onboarding, but
He's also doing the, thank God, because this was taking time for me, he's keeping track of all of the minutes that have to go up to the website, and
he's very organized.
he's very organized. And he's posting, and he's
He's wonderful.
web savvy.
He's wonderful.
Let's see, advertising, legal, we brought legal up. Is that right? Like, yeah, no, it's, we
That's,
kept it
the
the
rest
same.
of it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, all that's straightforward. Town property, all that's straightforward. Those,
Yep.
next page,
Uh,
property looks good. Everything else is
Presby.
cemeteries, Chesters. It's all as we discussed.
Yeah,
It's straightforward, there's not a lot of
Yeah,
excess
common-
here, and this is not.
Common school,
so if you go down all the way to highway, that's where the next thing is that we wanna I mean, just keep in mind that the cost for each of the vacation, the sick, holiday personal, bereavement, that's actuals based on how much, if anybody, if everybody took their full amount. So those numbers have changed, but they may not all be used. Let's hope not everybody has to use all of their bereavement. You know, it's changed, but it may not all be used. And then labor is calculated based on the 5-year average rate of use for each of these budget lines, calculated using the salaries, actual salaries. So that 3% increase is embedded in these numbers, in the labor numbers, and then it's broken out into the percentage that we would use in each of those categories based on the actuals for the last 5 years.
Hey, you're on highways. Why did vacation go up to 14.7? Did you just answer that?
I did, yep, that is one of those things that people have not, so you'll notice that it was high, our actuals were high, we budgeted 11,000, our actuals were high. If everybody took all their vacation, that's how much money they would need, and it's calculated,
It's a calculation?
yeah, it's
Formula?
calculated based on the 3% increase.
Okay, sorry I missed that.
That's okay. So all of those, there was a discussion about making those, we should be able to, prepare if worst case scenarios happen. We shouldn't see holiday leave, we shouldn't budget 78,000 and then 7,800 and then have actual of 8,800. So these are the actuals for based on the salaries. Oh, so labor. So if we get down into, we have winter sand, so this is in the 10,710, winter sand is at 60,000. 60,000. We just, I'm not sure if you want to change.
Why did the only change is, why did construction roads 10.7, I don't remember that discussion about 40K, 24, and in 2025 we got 36,750. Was that a
Where
base?
are we looking for?
I'm down at the bottom, construction roads,
Oh,
the labor number went down by 4K. And
So again, this is about the running average, so it changes every year. How much time goes toward each of these areas changes every year. And if you look at, for example, the total amount that we actually paid for salaries, and you do the math for what percentage of that total amount went to each of the areas, which is like winter labor, summer labor, construction labor, equipment labor, town garage labor. The average total is the actual, amounts that we put in there.
okay.
So it's based on actuals instead of based on the amount that we had last year times 3%, which is sort of what we had been doing. Yeah, so it really comes down to materials in, when it comes to, what we're looking at with costs in these areas, it's materials, and salt, chloride, gravel. Those are the biggies. And I think that the numbers seem reasonable based on previous conversations. Knowing that they fluctuate every year based on the weather.
Yeah, I'm on the last page, so I'm on, it says surplus transfer to equipment. And is that the 75K that we talked
Yeah,
about already?
exactly, so there's an in and out, so at the top for revenue, we put 75,000. Down here, we put 75,000 as the surplus transfer. It doesn't have to be,
And we should, theoretically, we should have another 70K of pad. Or
75.
yet to be determined, let me say that, use that word.
Right, we're anticipating 156,000.
That's
So
154, I think she just corrected. Okay,
so the way it is right now, what's the budget difference, percent?
so so currently, down at the bottom, we have a 5.32 increase in the budget. Sorry, hold on. Sorry, let me just make sure that I have that 5 to 75.
so you're computing total expenditures for 2024, and Dave's question was comparing budget 2024 with budget 2025? Is that the question Dave asked?
Yes,
Yeah, so 24 to 25 is 5.3%.
5.32%. But then the tax increase is 6.44%.
That's higher than we had.
It is, and that's because of the insurance that was not calculated correctly.
Yeah, I think we gotta go back and find,
I think you can do it with the surplus, instead of putting 75 in there, maybe put 35, but that'd get you down below 5%, I think.
So instead of 75 for the surplus transfer,
Yeah, maybe put the same as last year, what did we have last year in there?
it was 60.
58 last
58,
year.
Yeah, we put 50 in there instead of 75.
50 or 58?
50.
You're saying put another 50 in there. You're saying put another 50 in there.
No, I'm saying put only 50 in there. That way that surplus will go towards lowering the tax rate.
Right, so then it brings it down to 4.32.
It's kinda getting better.
And you could also increase that surplus line, which we only have 75%.
I guess that's one of the places that if we don't put something in that equipment fund, then when the grader comes up, we start either
Yeah,
having big bumps or a loan.
I think 6 something is, I think we need to get below 5.
That's 4.32, just by taking it down.
Yeah, well, what Dave's saying is to leave the 75 because we're gonna need that.
Yeah, no, I
it's-
mean, okay,
Yeah.
hold on. Let me put that back in there.
But in theory, if the fund balance is 154K,
Right.
I think we're there, right? I mean, if we do
Yeah, you're
the,
at 0.06%.
She's already calculated that, that's already in there.
No, there's
Only
another
75K.
75. She's anticipating $150,000
Right.
surplus.
And she's-
We're only allocating 75 to the equipment fund.
Yeah,
There's another 75 that we could put into the budget.
And if you do that, if you put, let's say that we change that number of revenue at the top to, give me a number.
oh, you didn't calculate that.
It says, it's calculated at 75 for revenue and 75 for that expense down below. But if you increase the 75 in revenue and don't change the number down below, it changes your tax request.
Oh, you have the 75 in
I
revenue?
only have 75 in revenue.
right, so that's where I think if we made it, 40K additional or 45,
Like $1,100. I mean, 110,000.
yeah.
Where is your 75?
It's 10/5/00/25/91, all the way at the top there. It's sort of toward the, down below at in the miscellaneous revenue, 10/5/00/25/91. So if we put 110,000, that would bring it down to 3.47% increase to taxes.
But the 75 here isn't in and out, right?
At this point, if you, right now what you have is $75,000 of revenue at the top,
Going into the budget,
and then 75,000
coming out.
coming out of the, yeah.
Okay,
So anything more in that would offset the tax.
so you could bump that number up to the 75 in up to 110. and
That's what she just
comfortable.
did.
Okay, yeah.
So 110 brings it to 3.47% increase to taxes. So again, and I wanted to just make sure that you know about that running, I gave you the, what is the balance, not the balance sheet, the,
Fund balance, this one, the two pages?
yeah, that one. And so if you look, where is the line?
You're saying the fund balance is 154.
Yeah, so not the, yeah, the balance sheet, there it is. Okay, so if you look at the second page of this balance sheet, what you have for fund balance, this is the historical fund balance prior to 2024, is that 527,000. So that's the compounding, like that's what we, like at the end of the year, when we say this is, you know, this is how much money we have, that's how much rolls us over into the next year so that we get through to when we take out a tax anticipation loan.
Right, that's a summation of all the fund balances that we
Right.
have.
Over time.
Right.
Yep. And then the fund balance for the current year is down below, it's 169,998, but that does not include, so this is actual, it doesn't include the payroll, I mean, the, what's it called, the AP that we just went through.
Yeah. Well, that's a pretty good number, 3.4, and the CPI is 2.5 this year? I mean, and we got enough for, we got a little bit of cushion there for additional,
It's 3.47, so that's about a 3.5 increase to taxes.
Yeah, that's doable, I think.
So that would be 110,000 of surplus funds. And, you know, you had already, you had sort of discussed the merit of, the school overpayment credit was 43,000. So there is that, you know, it did come, some of this did come from taxes collected, so it offsets this year's taxes.
yeah, well, that coupled with what we heard earlier about our school tax, you know, as an aggregate, that's a nice kind of a 1-2 thing.
School's gonna be way up anyways, it's, you know, you should be able to do a local school, not do a statewide.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. Never used to do it that way,
Yeah,
you know, cause some of those places overspend and we pay
Yeah,
for
we
it.
bid for it.
Right. There's been so much more work done in the country on how to make equitable school
So I think you should just,
since then. That was a long
should
time
be
ago.
local taxes, local pay.
But as far as looking at the town budget, I mean, there's nothing excessive in here. We're not,
I think it's consistent with what we've done in the past. I mean, there's a lot of stone and materials and summer, winter construction. That's the
I mean,
majority.
That's just, you know, you could spend, you know, I wasn't at the, but I mean, you could spend double the sand and gravel
Sure.
if you really wanted to, I mean, the roads need
Yeah.
it, but this is how much we can afford to do. And it's not gonna get any cheaper.
So if the select board is comfortable with this, then we could, the select board could make a motion to approve the budget tonight, or would you like to do it in the next meeting?
We generally try to wait until everybody's here, right? It doesn't have to be done tonight anyway, right? Yeah,
It needs to be done by, at the next meeting at the latest.
that's fine.
And we'll put the numbers into the, so she's gonna have the warning with her at the next meeting that needs to be approved by the select board. And the numbers have to be in there, in order for that to be approved, so.
Yeah, and like the town, just for the record, like the school superintendent just briefed us, you know, healthcare, going from just for, you know, highway aspect, but healthcare is going up almost double,
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
38K to 64K, so we've done the right thing, we've honored our employees, and we're gonna keep our roads in as good shape we can,
And just keeping in mind that for that, you know, those healthcare increases also are based on employee interest in healthcare. So some of that, we did have staff change their health plans halfway through last year, so we ended up with
Okay.
some changes there, so.
so we'll kind of end that and not make any motion till next. Thank you. Kathy.
You're welcome, thank you. So the only other item is a personnel item, one with both of us and one with me or without me. And I don't know if we want to have a legal conversation as well. We have some updates. Nothing urgent.
Is that executive session for the,
Yeah, it would
all
be
of
an
those?
executive session.
Before you
for the
do that,
personnel.
because you're due, all the town reports are due January 17th, I need to write your letter. What would you like included in it?
I would like the substance of this conversation that we just had, you know, hitting the highlights of the budget highlights.
So I
Drivers.
And
so
3.2 is what it was?
we
3.2?
also have to figure out if you guys are doing the budget pieces, then what do I do? Because in the past, it's been highlights of what you think is most important for the town and a few budgetary notes.
I think we need to address budgetary notes. That's gotta come from us.
You can be specific, I can be wide.
Okay.
Healthcare increases,
Yeah.
roads.
I think you also should put in, you know, the good work that the town crew has done. So
Yes.
it's in writing, even though some people think so, some don't, but we do.
Yeah.
You know, they put in some long days. I think they do a good job. Be wide on the other roads sometimes, it's black and white sometimes.
Yeah, well, maybe we could also throw a little recognition to the state in the hopes that we, you know, give them a, you know, this was a success down here. I mean, it's, you know, on time and on budget are always nice to,
Except what it did to the store.
yeah, no,
Keep
They're threatening
keep
to-
positive, keep positive.
Yeah, I wouldn't include.
well, what else could we recap? I mean, for, just
No,
recap.
but he could have benefited from that.
Not here nor now. What other projects did we do?
Yeah, certainly, I think we should talk about the select board should talk about the work of the planning and zoning.
I was gonna say,
You know.
it's sort of the legal year. We have a new.
Well, not the legal,
No, I mean, like, you have a new animal, a dog ordinance, you have
Sure.
a new,
zoning administrator.
zoning administrator. There's the effort on aligning the,
Do you want the nudie thing, the nudist ordinance also?
Sure, yeah.
Seemed to work.
Yeah,
What's the
I don't know if that was it.
the animal thing? Is that
The run?
something coming up, the animal control?
Sure.
We could plug an animal control officer interest.
Yeah, with new funding,
We're gonna
new position, new
Yeah.
policy, new,
watch out for new ad.
yeah.
It's gonna be out.
What's the date line on that?
Do you wanna say anything about the dam, that we have that parcel? No?
Yeah, say we got a new parcel on the pond for $1. It's good news. What are we looking for volunteers for? We want realtors to come forward to help us dispose of some town property, some property that we own that we don't want to, but maybe we would put that in there, I don't know.
Next year, Gavin, I believe, doesn't wanna run for another term, so it's not this year that his is expired, but next year. I don't know if you wanna say anything about
Yeah,
that.
let him put that out, that's
Okay.
his. But I would end up
Is
with,
he
you know,
up
this,
this March?
Not this year, it's next
Next
year.
year?
Mhm.
Who's up
We
in
we
March?
can put that in next year.
Brian Doobie, I have to look at my book. I know Brian is.
I know I am.
I think it's, I can't remember, might be you. Might be you. I think it's you. I think it's Brian and you.
He's automatic, he's not up. He's a legacy. He,
Could be, should be, I don't show up anymore, so, they'll kick me out.
I'm pretty sure it's the two of
you
you.
show up for the tough ones, Dave, Tom.
yeah,
I think that's about it. I mean, budget highlights and,
Yeah.
We're lucky, you know, going back to the road, we have such a, they're construction oriented, that team. They're not just road crew. They're, you know, other towns really, they pay to have the work that they're doing on our roads. Contracting out.
Common School, do you wanna put that in there? Common School
Oh
Committee?
yeah, the Common School Work Group met this year.
I ran into this
Oh, no.
fiber optics guy up on Mackenzie Road. And I said, hey, what's going on? Well, and he says, well, it's happening all around you. We're in St. Albans, we're in Enosburg and Fairfax. But he says, you guys are kind of... And I said, well, I'm going to talk to my fellow... You're on that committee still, right? Are they...
Fireworks? Yeah.
Fireworks, yeah, they're imminently building, so they've got their gears are in shape, and as soon as so there's a little bit of a political edge to this, where if they say where they're gonna go first, then it becomes sort of a,
Well, he told me it's all happening around you.
it's gearing up, it's not happening.
Tell them we're going to evict them if they don't
I'll
start
tell
to
them, I'll tell
do
them.
some shovel-ready projects in Fairfield.
I'll tell them. But, you know, what did you decide on the, common school, status of the common school?
We don't
We
have
still
to-
have it.
I think you let Julia handle it.
Okay.
It'll just say that you're working on plans.
Don't even, we're not doing anything, we're waiting on them to,
Okay.
So you don't want anything in, okay?
Well, you can say there's a committee formed to,
yeah, she'll report on it, I would imagine.
Yeah, there's nothing.
where they can put in their own little line item or something.
Yeah, that's probably enough, huh?
Okay, yeah. It doesn't have to be. It will have to be approved before the next meeting, because it has to be on the 17th, so I will send it along for you to review.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Motion to go to executive?
Oh, did we do the motion for the warrants?
I'll make a motion to approve the warrants.
Aye,
Is that a second?
yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Make a motion to go into executive.
Personnel?
Personnel.
I'll second. Or-